Amanium Shadow Poe!
Hello, and welcome to the Bronze Age Monsters Season 7 Shadow Show. This is a show that we make for our patrons. If you are watching this, you are one of our loyal patrons, and we appreciate you and love you, and we make this show for you.
Yes, we do. Artisanally.
Yeah.
So what are we doing here, Jacob? Why is this not part of the Atlas Seaboard main season?
Well, this is kind of our start. This is our soft launch, to use insufferable modern terms, of our season. So we're doing the Atlas Seaboard season, but as you know, my partner Matt loves chronology, and this is the very first thing that Atlas Seaboard released in their publishing schedule.
Yes, and it's not a comic book, so.
It is not. So yes, that's another reason why we're doing this. Yeah, kind of to open up the season. So this is definitely not a comic book. It is not anything that I had ever. I've read a lot of romance magazines, but yeah, we're going to be going through Gothic Romances 1. They only did one, so. And this is from 73,
December of 74. So
December of 74. Okay.
So their line rolled out, I think, January. I think this was the first thing they did, and then in I believe that's correct, or maybe this month. But this is like the first thing they put out. So they had 5 magazines that were black and white, and everything else was color comics in their short-lived line. So yeah, I kind of needed to do this, and I saw the cover. I was intrigued. This seems like for you and I, there's a Venn diagram of things we're interested in. I mean, this has a lot of crossover, right? I mean, like, we love romance comics, we love horror, we love 70s stuff. So, I mean, like, this is all kind of made for us in a way. It's just not comics, which is what this show is dedicated towards.
Yeah, no, this is something that is definitely in our wheelhouse, and it has, like you say, it has a lot of things that we love.
Yeah. So, we've talked a bit about romance stuff. We've talked a bit about Gothic romance and this kind of genre a little bit here and there on the show in relation to romance comics and some of the monster stuff we've done. But this is definitely the deepest, truest, purest dive into this pool that we have done ever. And, this to me, like, I don't know this genre that much, but like, I respond to it, and like there's like echoes of like familiarity. Like, this just feels like something that my cousin Connie would leave at my grandma's house, and I would like read it when I was really bored and there was no more Archies left or something. Like, it seems like something I would read and enjoy more than I wanted to admit that I enjoyed.
Yeah, my most of my exposure to romance magazines are ones that Alicia owns, or she reads a lot of stuff on Comic Book Plus, a lot of public domain stuff, and all that true romance and all that old stuff is on there. But she also has a lot of nice copies of it. And yeah, so I'm familiar with the, concept and everything, all the great ads and things like this. But, it's 1974, so this is quite lurid.
Yes, definitely. So I'm not as familiar with the romance like magazines like that. I'm sure Alicia and you guys have several copies of. Like, I know of them. I've flipped through one online, scan of one, but like, definitely for me, like, romance comics is the threshold where it's like, okay, there's art. Okay, now I'm in. But like, just reading prose and like just things churned out by middle-aged women and men, all from the voice of a 20-year-old nurse. That doesn't appeal to me. Like, just the literature, the prose part. So I've never really dug in before. So this is where, when the Gothic comes in, with the peanut butter meets the chocolate, that's when I'm like, okay, now I'm on board. So,
yeah, the Gothic helps. I mean, I think, as I've talked about on previous bonus shows, or even on our main show, those circulation ladies, they're a bad influence. They get you to read the bad stuff.
Yes, they do.
Circulation, that's the part of the library where people are playing craps, they're throwing dice, that's smoking behind the dumpsters. Like, that's what circulation is. And so they've had me read a lot of, like, shifter romance that is Gothic. It's all like, I mean, it's just this, just with more boning. Yeah. So So I feel like I've been prepping for this actually, like running laps. So I'm ready.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just looking at this cover, this is a beautiful painting that we're going to see pop up again because publishers are very happy to recycle anything they paid to have made. So we'll see this come up again here in a little presentation I'm going to share with Jacob. But I love these slapped on titles of the stories. So a compelling full length novel, The Cruel Cliffs of Malaspina. And there's always a little tagline, the little teaser that just pulls you in, right? In search of my mother's murderer, I wandered into a house full of hate. Devil's Chapel. This one really whet my appetite. The high priest lured me to the altar of hell. These are definitely 60s was when this boom happened. And this is definitely a post Rosemary's Baby, post sexual revolution. Like this one's a little racier than a lot of the stuff like in 1965 that was popular in the drugstore counter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was lurid stuff back then too, underneath that counter. But yeah, as far as just like mainstream magazines, yeah, they weren't like this. I think they became this in the 70s.
Then we have the Black Unicorn, an ancient tapestry pictured Corinne's doom. Mommy saved me from the night monsters. I thought it was only a dream until I saw the blood. And there's Asylum. A young nurse encounters horror behind the gates of Dr. Trevor's exclusive Virginia rest home. And there's a Starscope inside, guys. So this is a one-stop shop.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're going to get into all the amazing ads that are in this, which is 70% of the greatness of this magazine are the ads and the Starscope.
Yes.
I'm excited for both of us to read it.
Yes, so am I. But before we dive in, if anyone's listening to this and saying, I don't know why I'm listening to Matt and Jacob prattle on about pulp romance prose, we're going to just kind of give you a little bit of a primer just to kind of let you know where this kind of came from a little bit. So, the Gothic literature has its roots. Most people consider Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto the first book from 1764 or something like that. I've read it. It's fucking weird. Like a guy's prince is marrying a princess, and then a giant knight's helmet falls out of the sky and crushes his son. And then he locks up his wife and tries to marry his son's bride, and there's dungeons, and it is a weird ghosts. It's a fucking weird story. I recommend it if you want something bizarre. Then Anne Radcliffe wrote The Mysteries of Udolpho, which is the next kind of natural thing. And this is where all the tropes start to come in. This is where you get the castle, the rattling chains in the night, the diaphanous robes, the secret passages, all that stuff, where these are cliche now, but at the time, these were very exciting for the reader of the 18th century, late 18th century. Kind of evolves literarily to the Bronte sisters, Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. That kind of idea of these. I'm sure if you've ever read Wuthering Heights or whatever, you've probably in a class they've talked about how the moors, the wild moors, the heaths are this outer reflection of the inner turmoil of Heathcliff and whatever, and this kind of idea of being the governess or this person who comes into this established family, and you have to penetrate this world and insert yourself in this family, and there's all this friction, and so those kind of things come from that, and then in the 20s or 30s, Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca was a hugely popular novel. I think Hitchcock directed the film, if I'm correct, which I still have never seen. I'm so embarrassed I've never seen that. I have seen the shitty B ripoff called The Screaming Skull, which is the exact same story.
Wow, I guess it is. I never thought about that.
Widower marries a new bride. He's obsessed with his dead wife, and the wife starts to kind of, it's like a gaslighting thing. Am I seeing these skulls floating in the hallway at night, or am I, is he messing with me? Blah, blah, blah. So these are all firmly entrenched by the 20th century. And then in 1960, Victoria Holt published The Mistress of Melon. And this one sold like gangbusters. And they believe this is kind of the ground zero for the 60s explosion of the stuff. So I think a bunch of 30s novels and magazines and stuff kind of went back into print. And this, it's just catch point, right? Just all this flashpoint where this just kind of went nuts. And for the next 20 years, these books sold really well. Okay, so if dear viewer, if you are checking this out and you're noticing a theme so far about how these covers work, let's take a little path down publishing art lane. Okay. So first of all, remember that great cover we saw for Gothic Romances? As I said, they never let a good cover go to waste. So here it is for Phyllis Hastings, The Conservatory, a Ravenswood Gothic. And if you're interested at all in this stuff after this episode, I went down a rabbit hole when I read this. I read tons of, like writing about the genre and just kind of analyses and just exploring it and what it means and why it was so popular. It's fascinating stuff. Like I'm probably going to buy a couple books about just critiquing it because it's so interesting. But I love this cover.
That's cool.
But we'll talk, and Jacob, I know you know the stuff, so this is nothing new to you, but we'll talk a little bit about the things you expect on a Gothic romance cover as we go through this little slideshow here. So you'll notice we have our female heroine in the foreground. She looks like she's imperiled. She looks like she's escaping. It's evening time. She's leaving a big manor, and there's a light on. Okay? If everybody's playing bingo, you just blacked out your card because let's go through some covers. Okay? So this is a very common theme to have candlelight, to be in a castle, to be escaping the manor grounds at night, to be imperiled. All this stuff is very classic. Again, here, beautiful art. I'm a huge fan of this art.
Yeah, me too.
I could I kind of want to just download a screensaver for my computer that's just these because I think they're gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
There's just, but again, you can see this theme that's always present. The building in the background, typically the female in the foreground. She's usually in a nightshirt. So there's suggesting kind of sexuality, peril, danger. Before these were typically, so the Gothic, as you can see on a lot of these covers, it will say a whatever the publisher name is, Gothic. So that became just kind of shorthand. And I was reading one thing where they were saying the covers were completely divorced from the interior story. One writer, I was reading a quote from her where she said, I wanted to see what they would do with my story. So I wrote a book about a modern setting, a single story ranch home in a popular Southern California neighborhood. And my heroine has red short hair. She wore denim jeans, the entire thing. And I got the cover pack and she was blonde, wearing a diaphanous nightgown outside of a castle. So they don't care what the story is. They knew this would sell. Okay.
Yeah, they know what sells, and it's great.
Yeah. So, here's one. Ruby Jean Jensen, the girl who didn't die. She wrote one of the stories we're going to read tonight, actually. Yeah, I mean, I just went nuts on this stuff. I can't get enough of it. I think it's fucking gorgeous. And there's that DC line where they started off as a Gothic romance thing, but then it quickly just became another House of Mystery kind of clone. After
it's the secrets of
Love Manor or House of It's like Magnet Fridge with the words that work on this stuff.
It's like House of Shadow, Secret Dark Manor. I think that's what it is.
I like Romany Curse.
Yeah. Romany Curse. That's great. That was Romany.
Yeah. So this is just, it's great stuff, but obviously this stuff, they couldn't sell enough of it. Ruby Jensen's another author that we're going to meet here tonight, but she wrote House of Riverbend, a candlelight Gothic. I love that they all candlelight intrigue. They all have these brands, and there was this great person writing about how this is the same thing with boys stuff too. This has nothing to do with preying on women's tastes. Boys, same thing. We speculated this on the show. There's a certain part that stuck above the rack at the newsstand, and so that top third of the thing was what you did, and you put a thing, and you just put boys adventure, but jungle, blah, blah, gotta have that, right? Same thing with this. They're filling a need. And then once the need's gone, they stop making it.
God, these are so great.
They're great. I love Do Evil in Return.
Do Evil in Return. Holy shit.
So that was through the 60s and early 70s. And then Dell Publishing in 1970 and 1971 published Gothic Romances, which might sound familiar. So I'm sure Dell was standing there in 1974, December, going, hey, Seaboard, can we talk? But at one point, halfway through that year of 1970, they changed it to Gothic Stories, formerly Gothic Romances. I'm not sure why.
It's weird.
Maybe romance they figured was starting to taper off. So let's just, maybe we can get the horror crowd if we don't lean into the romance as much.
Maybe. I guess that makes sense. Even though you can't expect, you can't expect boys to pick these
Yeah.
up. Like,
yeah. So we just dove into some beautiful art, and that's kind of the connecting tissue for us to talk about this in Bronze Age Monsters. But I did see that some of the writers that we saw in the paperbacks that are in this book have modern editions of these things. And I don't want to be old man shaking his fist at cloud here, but the fall of cover art from where it was in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s to where it is now. I mean, even the 80s crappy paperback horror books were better. So let's look at, okay, so we Ruby Jean Jensen, she wrote one of the stories in here. I think she wrote the old house that stood outside of time or something, whatever the last story was. So this is The Girl Who Didn't Die and Child of Satan House. Now, I'm not wild about Child of Satan House. I believe that was published in the early 80s, and you can already tell it's starting to go into an ugly 80s, late 70s thing. But the one on the left, impeccable, fucking gorgeous.
Yep.
By the way, there's a whole community of people online who collect these original paintings, and I can see me getting into that. I mean, I know it'd be expensive, but can you imagine owning one of these original oils without any of the type on it?
God, that'd be gorgeous.
So let's look at the modern versions of these two books.
Oh, God.
What did we do wrong? How did we fall into the ugliest timeline? Look at these fonts.
Jesus.
I mean, I know the one on the left is like, it's a model. So you pay some girl $200 to stand there with a dress on, and you use that for 17 different things. You sell it. It's probably bought off of a graphic, design thing, royalty free, whatever. But like, when did the pride, like where did just caring how things look, why did that go away?
I don't know. And it's weird. It's like, why would you expect these to sell? Like, I don't know, even just from a design standpoint, these aren't going to jump off of a rack.
No, these look like Bride of the Werewolf, that movie we watched by the whatever brother,
That's right.
It looks like that level of like when you're on Prime or Netflix and you're down at the very bottom of the shit, and you're just, no one's watched it. No one's watched it. No one gives a shit. It was a tax write-off something. This looks like that kind of art where it's just like slap, 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 print to PDF. There, the cover's done. Like literally that amount of time.
God, it's
so it's insulting. I mean, that's basically, the goofy, that Child of Satan House, like that font, isn't that like kooky, whatever that fucking kooky font is that people always make fun of all the time? Anyway. I just needed to mention that before we dive in here. So, okay.
Yes.
Anyway, there's a rich tradition of this stuff, and it's been around a long time. And I have one more thing I want to share before we dive into this, just kind of reviewing these amazing ads we saw, and some of the stories, just kind of recapping the stories and what we liked and didn't like about some of them. So I asked AI. This is the only thing I think AI is useful for, is crawling the internet. And at least for me, when I Google something now, the first result is AI having crawled the internet and then cooking things down into a coherent thing. So to wrap up my little presentation, Gothic romance was popular in the 60s because it provided a way for female readers to explore themes of female agency, repressed desires, and anxieties about domesticity within a thrilling, suspenseful narrative, often featuring a dark, brooding male figure and a mysterious, often haunted setting, which resonated with the social and cultural shifts of the time. The accessibility of inexpensive paperback editions also contributed to its widespread popularity. So then some of the key points: female empowerment. The genre often featured a strong female protagonist who had to navigate dangerous situations and solve mysteries, allowing women to explore themes of independence and resilience within a fantastical framework. Sublimated sexuality. Big one. The dark, mysterious male characters and the often fraught relationships within the stories allowed for the exploration of sexual tension without being explicitly sexual. By that point, we're in the 70s. We're going to see some of that not holding true anymore.
Nope.
And then the last couple ones, escapism. The Gothic setting with its spooky atmosphere and dramatic events provided a way for readers to escape the mundane aspects of everyday life. And then marketing accessibility. Paperback publishing made Gothic romances readily available and affordable to a large female readership. So, it's not perfect. It's got that kind of soulless, Brundlefly, whatever. It went through the teleporter and came out without being human anymore, but it does cover some of the things. Some of the critiques I was reading were kind of commenting on it almost being a response to the sexual revolution, and like this kind of these fears that young women were having, where it's like, what if I'm not 100% comfortable. Like society's telling me do this, and there's, whatever, but also society's, my parents and my church or whatever, are telling me this, and this kind of push and pull. And a lot of that kind of reflects that, which I thought was an interesting point as well. Okay. Show's over.
Nice. No, that was great. I know. I do love it. I know when you fall down a rabbit hole, you do it really, really well. And so, you obviously connected with this, which is super awesome. I'm glad.
Yes. So, let's dig in a little bit and look at some of the art and talk about some of the stories. So this first ad here, Jacob, the perfumes of the world. I had to look some of these up. You can buy some. I was particularly interested in Geisha Keiko. You can get that on eBay. Still in the original packaging.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Nearesque importers. I love this. This also, like this next ad of the girl who's smiling now. All these LaSalle Extension University, you can study from home, and you can get these jobs. Again, this was a point in our time where a lot of girls are leaving the house, or maybe some are choosing either not to work or to go to the city and work and meet a man there and get out of their small town they grew up in or whatever. So there's secretarial, there's stenotype, all these traditional things you thought of like maybe 20 years before this, where like in the 50s, women were starting to go out and do their own careers and not feel like they had to stay home and do whatever. But, go ahead.
There's different stuff though, there's computer programming, and especially, there's executive development is the one that I liked the best, which is law for executive leadership and law for police officers too.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So it wasn't just, like you said, there's stenotype, there's dental office assistant, there's electronics technician, computer programmer, accounting, banking and finance, women weren't allowed to be around money, but now they can.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make, was that this is also the 50s Mad Men world, but it's expanded to, like you said, computer programming and electronics technician. I mean, that's fucking cool.
It is cool.
All right. So then the next ad, the first time I downloaded this magazine and flipped through this is the first thing I saw was this goddamn bra. And I still don't understand what it is. Do you?
I don't know. You're talking. Then it's no pads and no puff. So, but it adds 2 inches of the real you. The real you. What do you think is happening? Instantly add 2 inches of the real you instantly with the new convertible nude bra. The air quotes. I have an idea, but I'm not sure I'm right. I don't know if I have an idea. I feel like whatever I'm going to say, the comment that'll pop up is just like, well, Jacob doesn't know anything about women's bodies, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's not true. But I've seen your doodles.
Yes, that is true. Okay. So the first line is, now your own natural flesh can be enhanced. So a new, larger natural loveliness. Is this just a big, like, magnifying glass? Oh, is this like
I thought it was, I thought those were holes cut out where the cups would be. So my understanding was it was cool to not wear bras and to obviously have the person looking at you with your sweater or shirt on know you're not wearing a bra because that's square. So this, to me, I thought this was lifting your breasts up and just kind of making them look bigger, but still letting you have obviously you're not wearing a bra because you can see your nipples through your top, but like it's lifting them and kind of making them seem bigger and more perky. No, I think you're right, because it says there's nothing between you and your blouse or sweater. Okay. So the shape of your dreams come true. I think you got it, man. Good on you. Well, I did read it like 4 times, so. Okay. And I went to my priest and I wrote, I did a bunch of stuff. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So that's a trip. Nothing more 1974 in this whole magazine than whatever the fuck that is. Like, hey, I know you want to be cool and not have to wear a bra because nobody's wearing a bra now, but you want to wear a bra. But you want to wear a bra. Come on. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's for the bigger lady. Yeah. Okay. And it converts to a halter top. So that's cool, and it's available in black or white. Okay, so we covered these stories here. as before, and I love that they pop up and there's like these little special features, and there's little like they were sowing seeds. They're going for the long haul. Like, hey, write us, tell us what you want. Do you have a wacky thing that happened to you? Like these girls, like tell us your story. We publish your letter. You'll get $5.
I know, it just keeps going. It's just like they're really trying to grift. They're just like, okay, yeah, give us your ideas. I swear we won't use them. I mean, maybe we will. Yeah. Maybe we'll give you money. Maybe we won't. Who knows? It's the 70s.
But I mean, you know, Stan, everybody did this at this point. Like, here's the first issue of the sexy slasher. You know, did you like this?
Yeah.
What would you like to see? Do you want more down to earth stories? Do you want more crazy stories? It's like that Simpsons thing, right? With the dog. Okay, so this next ad I was also super into, Valmore cut price wig sale.
Oh, God, yes.
Because when you're wearing a wig, you want cut price.
Yes, you do. I mean, you know, skimping on a wig has always been a good idea historically.
Yeah.
So, okay, I mean, I know your favorite right off the bat.
Tell me,
I know.
What is my favorite?
Well, your favorite has to be capless skin top mushrooms.
Oh my God, killed me. Freedom wig is amazing. Also,
the Freedom wig is amazing too. I liked Darling Knew You. Aside from, I liked the look of it and I liked the name.
Yeah.
But the curly tapered. Yeah, I mean, Page Boy did not look Page Boy at all.
It's
not a Page Boy.
I saw that. I was like, that's not a Page Boy. Then I went to Google and said Page Boy haircut. I was like, that's not a Page Boy.
No, you go to Google and you say Page Boy haircut, and Roy Thomas's comes.
Okay, or a cute girl in the late 60s, early 70s. Yes, but one or the other. Yeah, so these apparently people just wore wigs, like Moira Rose in the 70s, just had a whole wall of them.
Yeah, they did. And then, you know, you get the more, you know, not cut price wigs at the bottom. You know, you got Flicka style Skin Wonder, flirtatious flip skin top stretch wigs. It gets very, it gets more involved.
Yeah. And I like how the 6 wigs in one. So that makes
I bet every one of those looks is golden.
So when you divide $9.99 by 6, you're actually, you know, probably getting a worse wig.
You probably are. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's dig into our first story, because some of these are trippy. So mainly in this issue, there's like 4 shortish stories, like 5 pages, and then 2 long ones.
Yeah.
So this first one here, we get some beautiful art by Howard Chaykin that has nothing to do with the story.
Not at all.
From the moment Marla met her fiance's brother, she sensed danger, but that was nothing compared to the desire that flamed within her whenever he was near. There's all these nice blurbs through this whole issue, just pulling out one phrase. So it's like if you're flicking through this at the newsstand, like, okay.
Oh, all right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first story is As Midnight Becomes Morning. And so I looked up, so Caroline Rivers, I don't think that's a real author.
Okay.
So I looked it up. I couldn't really find anything. There was a romance site that was saying that there's an old-timey like Caroline Rivers, but I think it's most likely, I don't know. Didn't this one seem most likely like a pseudonym for a gross dude?
Yes.
Okay. This one was written by a guy.
The ones that felt to me like they were written by a woman and seemed to have the most literary prowess, I looked up and they were real writers. The ones that were the grossest or the most like egregious were like, this isn't a person. Like I've looked them up on Goodreads. I looked them up like they're not real.
Yep. Yeah, with this one and I think The Devil's Chapel are the two that are just like, yeah, no, those aren't real people.
Yeah.
This is probably just a dude.
Yeah.
Gross dude. It's just like, ooh, gothic romance. I think that means really rapey. That's what it is, right? That's the assignment. I can do that. Let's go.
It's interesting that the first 2 stories in the issue too. So I wonder if that's part of if that's like a ploy.
Front load that.
Yes.
Front load that with all the sleaze. It's 1974.
Yeah. And so like they're flipping through the pages and like, oh my goodness. And then they buy the magazine and then the back half is like more traditional stuff.
Definitely.
For the most part. So this one, I gotta be honest with you, man. I started reading this last weekend and I heard this, I think it just went on our Discord and said, holy shit, this is mental. Like,
yeah, it's bonkers.
It is
it's completely fucking bonkers. Yeah.
So this has a lot of the tropes. I'm trying to remember what the story is here. So it's told from the third person. Marla Price is the main character. She is engaged to Brad, that's the fiance. They go to Ravenwood, the family estate. Very common trope, like going to the place has a name. That's important.
Yep.
And but this is very run down. This is not some big estate with butlers and all that stuff, right? I mean, there might be some staff, but it's like it's obviously fallen like a Faulknerian. Like at one point they had a lot of money, now they don't as much. It's kind of fallen into disrepair.
Yeah, definitely. And this was well, she responds to the ad, right?
Yeah. Oh wait,
and is
no, this is her fiance. She's meeting the
this is
family.
That's right. She's meeting the aunt and the brother of her fiance.
I thought was it the aunt? Oh, you're right. Aunt Coleus and brother Brent. Yes.
Yeah. And so, this first one they go and he's. I like that it kind of said that she again. I really feel like this is written by a man, to where it's just like, well, no, she wanted to go. She insisted on going.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't his idea. Like
Brad
she was just like.
Home. He
did not want to go home, but he, she henpecked him enough that he had to go home. And then, but there are consequences for that, for nagging. So, a lot of, I don't know, but this is also, I mean, you read this story and then it's basically the same story, slightly different for like the next 2 or 3 stories. But you're getting into Gothic romance tropes where, it's a girl, a young woman from the city who goes to a country manor. And you're right, the manor's always named. There's always 2 guys. One is dashing, one is creepy. Sometimes the creepy one ends up to actually be the dashing one. Yep. It keeps going. And so, this one read like a pretty normal story until the brother gets crazy.
Yeah. So this had a bunch of stuff I kind of expected that once the lurid stories kind of settled down and we got to the longer ones, like it was like, okay, this is what I was expecting more though. Like as far as like the literary tradition, like this one was what I was expecting for a magazine. Like, He sat down beside her and she went into his arms eagerly, pressing her back among the pillows. His warm, seeking hands moved beneath her gown. This is, by the way, someone she thinks is her fiance, but it's not.
But it is not at all.
Marla felt desire ripple over her. She held him close, feeling his demanding male desire. She was melting, yielding to the pleasure that surged within her. So, a guy enters her room. They're not married yet, so she has a separate room at her fiance's family's home. The guy comes in, rails her. She's like, Brad's never even satisfied me sexually before. And he just rung my bell multiple times. And then come to find out, so it's not Brad, it's his brother Brent. So she has been raped. Also a very prevalent theme, even through the non-rapey, creepy ones, was drugging. The main character gets drugged in almost every fucking story.
Pretty much every story.
It's so
yes.
Crazy. I know we're looking at it from 2025 lens, but I was like, holy shit. Everyone's on Mickey's?
Yep. Pretty much just roofie all around. And it was, the story's, not great, but like you say, I mean, I don't know. It's the whole like, but again, I'm pretty sure this is written by a man. So I don't think this, I would say it doesn't count, but I'm sure a ton of them were written by men for these magazines. So
I don't want to say that I know what a male or female voice sounds like as a writer at all.
Nope.
But nothing, when you said that, I was like, nothing about this felt, it was from a feminine perspective at all.
Not even 1%. This is the only one that I'm just like, no, some gross dude wrote this one. The others, I'm like, the next one that's also still a pseudonym, I'm like, all right, well, maybe. And then the other ones are just actual romance writers.
Yes. Yeah. So this devolves. The fiance's dog, Tatters, goes missing. And so he goes off to look for him. She stays behind. I think eventually, I mean, it gets so bizarro that there's a underground railroad cellar below the stables. And the brother-in-law drugs her and puts her down there. It's where he has this orgies, what they call orgies. They mean it more in the traditional sense of just like all the townies would come in there and they would just drink and get high and party down in the basement. But he locks her up in there. decides that he's just going to leave her there and let her die. And she's rescued at the last minute by Brad. And, turns out it's okay. Sex is overrated. So she's going to marry Brad. Everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Yeah. Her desire and needs don't matter, Matt. It's inconvenient. So yeah.
So
yeah, this was an interesting start. I was like you. I was reading this. I'm like, oh shit! All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And so this one has a jump. Actually, it jumps to the end to wrap up. But before it does, there's that little there's a contest. Again, they're fishing for what do you, the reader, want. So they say, which title on the cover especially intrigued you? What's your age? How effective was it? Blah blah. And then this full checklist at the end. I want romantic no sex, romantic some sex, romantic very sexy, stories taking place in the past, stories taking place in modern times, stories with robots. Like it just keeps going. We're just like, tell us what you will buy. Okay, next.
So you want a grounded, realistic character who gets into wacky adventures.
I just want Poochie.
Yeah,
I just want to get railed by Poochie.
That's what Poochie. I love the Speedo Man. That's all I could say.
Oh my god, one kid really likes Speedo. Okay, so the next story is the Devil's Chapel. Continuing with our bananas storyline, we have a illustration here by Leo Summers, which I wasn't really familiar with much, but it looks very much like Christopher Lee, some kind of Hammer Satan, priest role. Behind her as the female is rushing towards the viewer, lots of washes, kind of busy, energetic, nervous, frantic energy in the brush strokes and the dryness of the brushes and stuff like that. It's very interesting.
It is. So the author, Vanessa Swinford, is not real.
Okay.
There's really no evidence of there being a writer. This is the only thing that comes up when you Google it, when you try and go down as many rabbit holes as you can. And this is, I don't think Vanessa Swinford is real. But this one continues in the tropes, but this one is a girl answers an ad.
Very classic.
She's classic. She's taken to a sprawling estate to help an elderly woman with her sorting and correspondence. I love that that's a job. It's just like, no, I just need you to sort stuff for me.
Yeah.
And maybe help me write a letter.
Yeah.
And that's a job.
But it comes up.
It does come up. No, you are right. And so, but this woman has two nephews. Both are creepy.
Quentin and Rennie.
Rennie. One's a poet. And yeah, so it's just her. I mean, these tropes kind of roll on. She finds a chapel that's filled with like horrific demon statues. And it kind of goes on. Then it gets kind of dark. Like, is that when she finds the mutilated animals? Or she reads a correspondence that one of the nephews was like recommended to be institutionalized.
Yes, she's while going through the boxes of correspondence that needs to be sorted. That's her job. She sees a letter from a psychiatrist in an asylum or whatever who says, like, this person's obviously a psychopath. They're incredibly dangerous and homicidal. But she doesn't see the name. And she is scared to ask her employer. So, this is Foxgrove is where she is. Interestingly, so she finds a strange chapel, as you said, with the creepy demonic statues in it. It's clearly very old and very creepy. And then she finds mutilated animals leading a trail back towards the house. And this one ends with the revelation that was it the poet? Was the poet the crazy one? Forgot. Oh, you're muted. Are you muted?
Yeah, Rennie was the poet, and he was the one that wrote the kind of like violent poetry that she thought was because of the animal mutilations and stuff. So she thought that Rennie was the bad guy, but Quentin was actually the bad guy posing as Rennie that lured her to the chapel, to the Devil's Chapel. And then the police burst in and save her. She's fine in the end. Yeah.
So he was going to rape her.
He totally was. Yes.
Sacrifice her to Satan, but the police intervened just in time. So 2 for 2 on rapes.
2 for 2 on rapes, even though I think the quote, and it's funny, I actually think there's like a pull quote on that one that is, gosh, where is it? The pull quote is, "I would rape you first, Allison," the high priest said in his hollow voice, "but I must confess that murder gives me much more satisfaction."
Right. Yeah, I must confess that killing you will give me as much pleasure as raping you, he chortled. I have always enjoyed the act of murder. Compared to it, the act of sex is laughable.
Yeah.
Sure, sex is great, but have you tried murder?
Have you tried murder? Because it's way better.
So, yeah, so this was definitely like a post Rosemary's Baby, post like everything kind of like Satanism inflected thing. And this one felt like it was written by a man as well.
Yeah, it did. It did. And this is the only other one that is, I think that is definitely a pseudonym.
Okay. All right. So, two very lurid stories back to back in our intro, two short ones. And, gotta be honest, I enjoyed them. I'm not opposed to sleaze. So
no, not at all.
I enjoyed them for how gross they were and how weird. And, yeah. And now it's time for our Star Scope.
Yes, it is. This is what everyone's been waiting for.
So what's your sign?
Okay, so in this, Alicia and I are on the cusp. And so what I like to say is that in newspapers and, those little books and stuff that you used to get at the checkout line, on those were Geminis. On lighters and keychains were Cancers.
Okay.
Because, it's one day different.
Okay.
So in this, being that it's a magazine, I'm a Gemini. So, I'm just going to read mine here. Geminis are probably the most changeable members of the zodiac. Some people think you should be represented by the chameleon. You often make major decisions like purchasing a new home or changing to a new job at the drop of a hat. I don't think you can purchase a home at the drop of a hat. But well, for the month of November, you would do well to maintain the status quo in your home or on the job. Avoid overconfidence in your vocational field and sidestep squabbles. If you can just sit tight until the end of the month, there's a good possibility that you will be in for a raise in earnings and importance. It is also time this month to take a few minutes out of each day to attend to your health and beauty needs. Typical of the Gemini appearance is that they seem to be ageless and therefore tend to neglect themselves. Slow down this month. Take care of yourself.
Wow.
All right. I mean, I get the ageless thing, but everything else, I don't know. Well, I love it. It's like, if you can just sit tight, I'm just like, that's what I do best. I just sit tight and just wait for things to improve.
Right.
So I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Libra.
Yeah, you are. You're always a Libra though, right? Like,
yeah, I'm dead center.
You're not on a cusp, so it doesn't change. Okay, cool.
No, you Librans whose zodiac symbol is the scales seek balance, but in seeking it, like the scales, you go up and down, back and forth, in between extremes. You will work like a dynamo for months at a time and all of a sudden just flop down. November is definitely your month to relax. You need your periods of rest, so take them. Since you generally maintain a good rapport with your coworkers and with those you live with, they will cooperate with you at this time. Your popularity is at a peak, and you are very attractive to your mate this month. Still, you aren't quick to make decisions, and you are always weighing consequences. Despite the fact that things appear smooth, you feel strongly possessive and jealous of your loved one. Unwind and take things easily. You should derive a large amount of satisfaction from any group or club activities. If you don't belong to any organizations, pursue your favorite pastime, reading.
Well, I mean, that makes sense, but, all the groups and clubs you belong to.
Yep.
I mean, that's you, right?
Yeah. The Devil's Chapel. That's the only club I belong to. Yeah, I've never gone in for this stuff. I think it's ridiculous. I'm honestly, I'm always a little disappointed when I meet somebody or find out a friend has ended horoscopes. I'm just like, oh man, really?
I know.
It's just a few notches above being like a Holocaust denier. Like, oh man. I like to remember when 7-Eleven had those little scrolls.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking of. And the
like
little
those little tiny books that I know what you're talking about too. Yeah, the checkout counter. Oh boy. Anyway, this shit was fucking hugely popular then, still popular now for some goddamn reason. Some people literally are millionaires based off of doing this stuff. always makes me sad that there's this part of humanity that feels a need to be told things that apply to everyone and feel like they're comforted by it. I don't understand.
I don't know. Yeah, I know. I don't get it.
Okay, so this next story is one of my personal favorite ones, The Black Unicorn.
This was my favorite one too, actually.
So this is by Ruth McLeod. She did a lot of other books. We saw some of her covers in that little slideshow I presented. So she's cool. And this to me felt the most like in the tradition of like a Wuthering Heights, or, not maybe that lofty, but like just that, even like Henry James' Turn of the Screw or something like that, where it's like the governess goes to raise the child. That's the premise. That's a very common one. Like Dark Shadows.
This is a Gothic romance.
Yeah.
This is a Gothic romance, like the title of the magazine tells us. But the first two stories were just lurid stories that kind of took place at like nice country manors.
Right. So this one's about the main character, Corinne, and she's goes out to the moors. She's hired to be a governess. Roderick hires her to tutor his daughter. Again, this is very turn of the screw kind of setup here. And there's this tapestry out in this big, huge manor, and it has a unicorn on it. And the in the tapestry is a depiction of the actual manor it used to be an old church in the olden, like medieval days. And there's a cemetery, and in the tapestry you see a unicorn flying around above the cemetery being chased by the ghost of a vicar, and on the unicorn's back is a damsel who appears to be dead or in distress or something, but her face is missing. It's been worn out with time. And this haunts the main character and horrifies her. And this one to me like was the first one where it was like, this is a writer. This is an actual person. I Googled like, yep, she's a writer. Like she's a real person.
Yeah, it was funny, just reading about her, I love that, there's a lot of Eugene connections with her.
Really?
She went to Eugene Bible College.
Wow.
Her papers are archived at U of O. And she was 70 years old when she wrote this story.
Yeah, I knew she was not young.
She's not young, no.
And it seemed like she got started with her career kind of late in life, like at 50 or something like that. She's kind of later. I might be confusing her with Ruby Jean Jensen.
I think you're right.
Okay. Like most of her credits were like from the second half of her life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this one to me, just like compared to all of the other ones, had like a sense of place. Like, like a lot of these other ones where it's just kind of like, then I did this and I went that. I went into the kitchen. I did blah, blah. It's just like, okay. It's okay for a story to be driven by action or by whatever's going on. But like this one, like I could, like she took time to describe like what the weather's doing, like what the light was doing at the moment. Like everything she's a writer, man. Like I love this story.
It's really good. And the pull quotes are great too. I mean, it really just kind of does a good, job summarizing the story. So one of the image of the tapestry haunted Corinne. Even in her dreams, the dark unicorn dashing across the moors, its lush mane flying, its sharp horn pointing skyward. On its back was a faceless rider. Pursuing it was a ghost risen from the graveyard. The tapestry seemed to be trying to tell her something. Corinne thought, or was it trying to warn her? So, yeah, this story is really, really cool.
Yeah, I love the shit out of it. It has a gorgeous spot illustration by Ernie Colon.
Right? Fuck, it's so nice.
Just stunningly gorgeous. So yeah, I mean, I actually figured out this story. I'm not a person that like tries to find twists and turns and everything. I just sit back and just take it all in. And so it's rare for me to figure out a twist or a turn or a secret thing. And I actually figured this one out. So I was kind of proud of myself.
Nice.
But I loved it. I was totally into it. Also a drugged character. Yeah. The first night she's there, she's offered tea from China that tastes strange, and a old vintage wine by the maid of the house, the servant, and she is fucked up, can barely make it to her bedroom the first night she's meeting her new boss, like totally awkward.
Very awkward.
I learned some words. I look up snood and ablutions. So a snood, you know what a snood is?
I didn't know a snood, but I think I knew ablutions.
I figured out ablution from the context.
Yeah.
But I had to look it up just to be sure. But snood is the when women have their hair back in a thing and it's like a net that like holds like their hair.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I didn't know that was called a snood.
No.
So, I kind of knew this word also from context. Amanuensis, which is a person who like handles like documents, like a clerk, almost essentially, like old medieval documents.
I had never heard that word before in my life.
I'd seen it. I'd never tried to say it until just now. I don't think I did it right, but like I knew what he was saying. He's like, oh, I think it's Bianca, or not Bianca. That's a different story. I forgot the name of Alma.
Alma, yeah.
Yeah. And so, so he's this young, attractive woman who's there, and the main male character is interested in her, and she's there to kind of help him go through all these old documents, and that's kind of her role there as a historian, almost kind of like a apprentice to him or something like that in this historical endeavor of the old church documents of this manor that was converted from a church into a manor. But love this story. This is where I was like, okay, I can see me actually reading something like this if this had continued.
Then we get the word hunt puzzle.
And I was stoked with the word choices though in this, man. Asmodeus.
Yeah, they're so good. Asmodeus. D. Dr. John. Yeah.
Candlemas.
Yeah. Llamas.
Demonology.
Once upon a Llamas night. Cornrigs or Bonnie.
Simon Magus.
Yeah.
Samothrace? I don't know.
Samothrace. I didn't know that one either.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was good. Loa, I like that we got that one. That was nice.
Yeah,
Little
nice.
Brother Voodoo callback.
Mother Damnable? Horned Goat. God damn, this is great.
Yeah, these are great. I wanted to print this out so I could I think I will print this out at work tomorrow and actually.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one that in the cover that's touted as a full-length novel is actually 15 pages.
It's 15 pages, and boy, I had a hard time with this one.
I didn't dislike it as much as you did. We were talking a little bit through texting. I didn't love it though, but the fact that it was the longest and for me kind of the least engaging in many ways.
I just had, I read it all the way through and I hardly retained any of it. It just didn't sit with me for some reason. I don't know if it was the writing style. I don't know if it was just so much different than the Black Unicorn before, but I don't know. This was a hard one for me.
I think coming after the Black Unicorn and being longer didn't help it for me.
No, that was a bad editorial choice there.
So this one's kind of a fun one, though, because the premise is basically that there's this young girl. I hope you're sitting down. And her father was American, her mother was Italian, and her mother died when she went home to Italy to visit her family on a big estate on an island with some cliffs overlooking the sea. And her dad is going to be there after the mom dies, and he dies in a plane wreck. So she's been essentially orphaned, but she's an adult, a young adult. So she goes to visit her family she's never met before. And it's a lot of tropes of Gothic stuff. Again, where you're going into a family, people think you want something. So yeah, she was orphaned by these two tragedies. Her name was Francesca Mackenzie. Her mom was named Malaspina, though that's the name of the estate as well. So we meet the whole family, Teresa and Mario, and they have a son named Robert. It's a very big family and a lot of like ins and outs, very soap opera-y. Like, oh, this person, this, and she was going after him and he was flirting with her and he rejected her and she was angry and blah, blah, like just all kinds of people trying to get up to shenanigans in this castle. So I liked it. I also I didn't love it, but I liked it okay. But I did like, these typically end with someone like falling down a well or hanging on the edge of a cliff, like literally cliff hanging. This had that. And I did like this weird, like social note where it's like, there's a small island. The family has this big sprawling, they own the whole island and they have this big estate. And there's like a fishing village that they allow people to live there. And the villagers explain, like, there's a syndicate and they want to come in and just like this, it's a real Italian island, like Sardinia or something.
Yeah.
Blank on that.
Sardinia.
Like, Sardinia. Yeah. They let a syndicate come in, they commercialized it. And now like there's tourism there and blah, 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 and people can make a living. And we could really stand to do with that. And the family's totally against it because there's this old family. It's the blah, blah. And so there's this weird note that goes through like the second half of it where it's like, please just industrialize and let the working class people like thrive. And I was like, I know. That's kind of cool.
It's kind of cool. And they're like, no.
I love the illustration at the start of this by Howard Chaykin.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, the illustration is great. I do want to bring up, I think it's 2 or 3 pages in, we have a little text box right in the middle of the story.
Oh, yeah.
that says, strange things do happen. Have you ever had a dream that came true, or are you perchance blessed with the power of ESP? Your fellow readers of Gothic Romances would love to share in such miraculous happenings. This, more than any other magazine, is the place where strange things happen. No one here will laugh at the idea of ghosts, hauntings, dreams come true, or any other mysterious phenomena. So please, if you've had a special experience, write in and tell us about it. Each letter printed will be awarded $5. Write to Strange Things Do Happen, Seaboard Publications.
So again, I think this could have been a good magazine with a little bit of, like, if they kept a balance of like lurid trash 5-page stories, a 15-pager written by a real writer who can actually have some meat on the literary bones, some weird like ghost like letters from readers, like I had this dream and then I saw the strange man the next day, just like in my dream. Like I love like this would have been fucking rad if it's like Unsolved Mysteries meets Gothic Romance meets trashy lurid bordering on soft porn.
Yeah. Yeah.
With devil worshipping and stuff. Oh boy. Yeah.
But Matt, we're to the point in the magazine where we get the telecult power. So Here we go.
Did you look this up?
I did not, but I saw that you did, so I'm excited. You
this
sent me this, yeah.
In print.
What?
You can buy this today on Amazon. It has like 3.5 stars on Goodreads. It's
holy shit
mental. So this is advertising a book that you can get, all this crap you always see on these ads and these comics and whatever. Use your mind power to this, that, and the other and make people like you and get money and blah, blah. It's written by Reese P. Dubin.
What a dumb name.
Telecult Power, the amazing new way to psychic and occult wonders. In this, if anyone's interested, I'm just kind of flipping through the contents here, Jacob. Your mental earphone, 2-way conversations from New York to California with the amazing mental earphone.
Cool.
Mind reading, skin as an electrical conductor. I mean, it's just all just quackery. Like I have a book called Kooks that is just like things that mentally ill people on streets hand out, like, hey, electric brain Frankenstein radio, but put a tinfoil on your head. Like, it sounds like that, but it's a fucking book people paid money for.
Yeah, they paid a lot of money for it.
How to broadcast silent commands or hypnospells. Psychic televiewer finds jeweled brooch. Your mental levitating finger. It's just it's just gibberish. And it's the fact that it's in print. But I found all these, by the way, on archive.org. So someone scanned this entire book in. So if you want to go, and please don't send whoever this is or their offspring any goddamn money, because this is horseshit.
It is.
How you can receive help from the invisible world. I mean, this sounds like something you and I would read and laugh about, like from the 20s.
Yeah, it did. I wouldn't be shocked if this, that's why I was just like, is this from the 20s? Is this from like
That's a good question. I wonder when it was published originally, because it definitely sounds like that nonsense. Then we get a nice period piece. You always got to throw in a period piece, right?
We get Asylum.
This is Asylum by Marianne Ashley. I didn't find any other credits for her. Did you find out?
I didn't either. No. So I don't know if Marianne. Well, yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure.
So this was it's fine read because it's 5 pages. I'll read anything for 5 pages, right?
Yeah, it was fine.
So it was fine. A beautiful Neal Adams spot illustration with some watercolor washes, and
that's why this issue is $600.
Yeah,
right?
That's why early Neal Adams work, some of his earliest stuff.
It is fucking gorgeous,
and it is insanely beautiful. But the premise here is basically that the female narrator grew up on a hospital in the South after the Civil War. Her father had a partner. Her father died of tuberculosis. The partner brings in some milksop loser dude named like Neil or something, and he's pursuing her, and he brings his lame mom who's a shrew, and then this handsome guy rolls into town, Dr. something Trevor, and he comes into town and he's like, hey, I have an asylum over here called like Fernwood or something like that. Yeah. And green grasslands is what it's called. And he's like, hey, do you want to come be my nurse? Because the daughter had studied to be a nurse and worked with her dad before he died. And so she goes to this asylum, and it's this old Southern, was a prison during the Civil War. It's been converted into a mental hospital. She quickly realizes that this dude is bad news. All the dangerous patients, all the males are down like in the previous converted dungeons, and all the women, one woman tells her, like when she's alone with her, like that he rapes her, gives her laudanum and rapes her. And then he comes up and he's like breathing her face like, hey, baby, blah, blah. And she's breathing laudanum breath all over. She finds out that he's just giving everyone laudanum, taking all the patients are like from rich families. They just want to get rid of the crazy relative. So he just takes the money, feeds them gruel with laudanum in it, and just leaves them all locked up, and they don't get to play or read or go outside or make art or do anything.
No, the pull quote I like. It says, and she says, "My heart went out to the women in that room. They were all unkempt, their night dresses stained, their hair in wild disarray. But even worse was the stark fear in their eyes as they regarded me. What had made them so afraid? After all, Dr. Trevor had assured me that his patients received the best of care." Yeah. No, this one was good.
I enjoyed this one. I a new word I had to look up was helpmeet. She says I was hired as a helpmeet. HELP-MEET. So I looked this up, and almost all of the definitions come from Bible study websites. So apparently this is something from the Bible that basically says like women are like the help assistant to their man. You know, the whole kind of subservient.
Helpmeet.
Yeah, helpmeet.
Like the meat.
Weird. And so this was, until we find out this dude's a laudanum junkie psychopath, he's definitely painted as this kind of like, you know, dark features, hawkish nose, like the big imposing whatever, but he's very mercurial. Everyone's mercurial. So like they have black moods, and then the next day they're fine and in good spirits, and then they're angry and blah. All this goes through all Gothic stuff, doesn't it? Romance?
Yeah, it does. Especially the men.
Yeah. Oh, specifically. I think that comes from Wuthering Heights or something. I'm not sure, but it's definitely, I call it Heathcliff syndrome. It's definitely
Heathcliff
like
syndrome.
You know, the moody, whatever. I'm Robert Pattinson or something like that. It's just
so. I mean, just as an aside, like what version of Wuthering Heights is the one that you like? I'm all Merle. I'm original. I'm Merle Oberon by far.
I've never seen. No, I'm sorry. I saw one that was on PBS like 15 years ago, like 2010 or 2012. Mm-hmm. I forgot who was starring in it, but it was a miniseries on that PBS had. I think BBC probably had it made, but
yeah.
So that's the one I've ever seen, and I only saw like part of it, and I was enjoying it so much I was like, I'm just gonna read the book because like I'm getting totally sucked into this. So I've never seen a film version.
I would definitely watch the one from the 30s with Merle Oberon. It's so good. That's definitely my favorite. There's one that we got that it was BBC, I think in the 70s, and it looks like very BBC, like it looks like Doctor Who, like it's shot on video,
like Claudius or something.
Yeah, but it has Ian McShane as Heathcliff.
Oh damn!
Yeah.
Sorry, Renee just brought me some peppermint tea. I feel
it's
like
laudanum. There's laudanum in that. Watch out!
It's probably drugged.
It's drugged. Haven't you learned the lesson? You should have learned the one lesson from Gothic Romances.
So, Wuthering Heights was kind of my gateway drug into this literature, I think, also.
Me too.
Like, then I read, like, The House of Seven Gables, and I just started getting into it. And then I was like, well, where did this come from? And that's when I read that Castle of Otranto that we talked about at the very, very beginning, which feels like a very long time ago.
I'm going to check that out.
It's weird. Because it's, mid 1700s, so it's stilted and weird, but psychedelically bizarre at the same time. So it's like it feels like a dream, and maybe a good way. We'll see. Let's talk about the next to the last one.
And that's
Mommy.
Mommy saved me from the night monsters.
So this is, I think, for my money, the weirdest one.
Yeah, this one was weird. I had a hard time kind of locking in with this one, but I had a really easy time locking in with the first illustration by fucking Russ Heath.
Dude, I would never have guessed Russ Heath just looking at that.
Yeah,
I like
right?
Russ Heath. I'm not saying
I do too.
It doesn't say Russ Heath to me. I fucking love it. I just sat and looked at this page for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, but he can do everything, and his washes are way different. Well, I mean, he's pretty well known for his washes in a lot of ways. And so I don't know. Yeah, this doesn't look like the best I've seen of Russ Heath, but I loved it though. I thought it was great.
So did I. So this one was weird because the premise is that there's a woman who is a widower, and her daughter and her husband were walking in a new mall. And then there's like a clock tower shooter type of situation, and her husband just gets blown away by a random mass murderer. Yep. And the daughter has repressed all this and hasn't grieved properly. And then she goes down to, is it her family? She goes to, yeah, she's like,
yes.
Her mom was estranged because she ran away with a guy below her station. She dated a soldier from the nearby army base, and the family said, to hell with you. So the mom went off and lived a life, died young, and then this daughter married and had this kid, so blah, blah. So after her husband dies, she goes down to the South to be with her family. I forgot what the prompt was for that to happen, but it's very like Faulknerian, again, like this like post-war like reconstruction, like decay. Like you could tell the house was nice at one point, but it's almost something that's got molding walls at this point. Like it in my mind, it was like really dilapidated.
Yeah, it's definitely like has a As I Lay Dying or Suttree kind of vibe to it. Yeah.
But yeah, just that public shooting, like it was weird to have this kind of be like, again, like this kind of Southern Gothic thing. And I have this like very like 60s, 70s, like psycho killer killing spree thing at the beginning.
It was a weird start. That's for sure.
And then there weren't a lot of details. This is another one of those ones where it was like 5 pages. Again, it's short, so they didn't have a lot of space, but, they painted the kind of, I was filling in a lot of the gaps. It's like, you can tell that the house is ramshackle and dilapidated, but like, not a lot of care given to putting you in that place experientially and like, making an impression of like what it's like to be in there. But, so this one gets Scooby-Doo and really weird, really fast. There's like a ghost, fake ghost. One of the relatives is crazy. They believe that the girl is there to take over the estate or what's left of the family's properties, and so he's trying to scare her off. Weird story.
Yeah, it is a weird story. Again, like this one was strange to me. I had a hard time connecting with this. At all. Really,
I liked it for how weird it was, particularly the Scooby-Doo like fake out.
The Scooby-Doo stuff was pretty funny
because that's right. That's a very classic thing in the age of reason. Like a lot of times through this Gothic stuff, and you know this from like the old dark house tropes, which is also Gothic. Like that idea of like up until Dracula, the film, like you didn't have supernatural stuff. Everything had to be explained as, oh, that was a guy in a mask. Oh, that was a glow paint on, like there weren't ghosts, there weren't vampires. Like we considered that infantile to believe that those things were real. And then Dracula's when like, no, this dude's a vampire. Those aren't fake fangs. He's drinking their blood. He is undead. Like, so everything was explained with reason in these old dark house and Gothic stories for a long time. So this was kind of a throwback to that, which I thought was cool, but in a really weird, ramshackle, written on the back of a fast-moving truck on mescaline kind of way.
that is definitely that's definitely a good description of it. But yeah, and after that, then we get our first fairly explicit ad.
Oh boy,
where you turn the page that says, now you can have a rare opportunity to actually live the sexual fantasies that most men and women only dream about. On this page, you will find more than 75 important tips, facts, and formulas on how you can tailor-make a sexual relationship to fit your own personal desires.
Yep.
This is a lot.
This was a lot. And like, the telecult I was willing to look up and research, I wasn't willing to look up like the natural lubricant and lubricants to avoid. Slipping and sliding, holding onto your partner. I was like, nope.
Facial manipulations. My favorite one, crisscross, you're the boss.
Oh my God.
And I like that it's you send away for it, and you send away to Life Research from Great Neck, New York.
and it arrives at your home in plain paper.
Yeah, it does. You don't want anyone knowing that you're getting 75 tips.
Yeah, and I wondered, like, it says now save up to $15 a copy. So I was like, wait, how much is this? How much was this?
Well, it just says, Rush the Professional Sexual Guide encloses $2.98 plus 52 cents for postage and handling. Total $3.50.
Oh, it says, okay. It says the information and photographs contained in the Professional Sexual Guide is exactly the same type as obtained in sexual encyclopedias that sell for $22.50 or more. Okay. So you're saving that by not buying the fancy stuff. This is the...
Yes.
Yeah. So this just seemed to me like a way to get some pictures of people porking and to have it be considered a marital aid. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. Because at first I thought they were selling it for $15 in 1974, and I was like, do the inflation math, but obviously $2.98 is much more.
Yep, $3.50 total with postage. So,
okay, final story by Ruby Jean Jensen. We saw her come up a lot. Oddly, to me, the House Where Time Stood Still was like the sweetest, most old-fashioned story in here. Very much like a radio play or like a Rod Serling thing or something. Super sweet. But I looked up Ruby Jean Jensen, and like she had just started her career, I believe, at this point as well. And she actually veered off into straight up horror. Like she published most of her stuff and had most of her success in the 80s and 90s in paperback horror books. And her specialty, she's associated with, I'm showing some pictures here. Sorry, I didn't make a slideshow for you, Jacob. I'm showing some pictures of her covers, but like she was associated with like creepy little kids and like haunted dolls. Like that was like kind of like her.
Okay.
You want one of those? Call Ruby Jean Jensen.
That's funny.
Like she has a book called Mama and stuff they're all stuff like that. But this I thought was super charming. What did you think of this one?
I thought it was okay. Yeah.
I guess just after like the raping Satan worshiper and the drugging and raping and putting in the orgy room below the Civil War stables, like I was just like, it's nice just to
this
sweet
nice.
old ghost of an old lady in an old house in an old town. Like it just felt very like what if Salem's Lot was in the White Lodge? Just I don't know. A girl is traveling. I forget what she's doing. Oh, she's leaving her husband. They've decided to divorce. She's just on a road trip to find herself or something, or go to the coast. Stops in this town she kind of grew up in. I love the whole like kind of like it feels like a dream, like that kind of like this is my hometown, but it's not my hometown, and I grew up here, but it's not at all what it was, and no one's here. It's completely empty. It just felt very Twilight Zone to me.
It did feel very Twilight Zone, and though it didn't like mirror the story much, but I was thinking of Jezebel or Come Walk With Me, or some of the ones that just kind of had that same feel. But it's a weird illustration that it opens up with.
Yeah.
That is that the credit says. Yeah, credit says Chili 74 if you go on, which is weird.
Yeah, that led me to believe this was for something else.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
It was an unused spot illustration for another story somewhere else in another publication. And like we already paid for it. Unfortunately, he wrote something in there that is specific to the job, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I do like that illustration though.
Yeah, the illustration's cool. I like the ones that go on, actually, too. I like the little illustrations that are throughout this story.
Me too. I think
charming. It's cool. Pull quotes are really good, too. Like, I liked just the... this is a pretty good summation in a way. It says, the man from the town council looked at me quizzically when I told him about Miss Sarah. Are you crazy? He exclaimed. The last of the Milton family died years ago, and the house has been standing empty ever since. So yeah, you're right. I mean, there is kind of a sweet quality of like, nothing bad really happens.
Yep. I mean, it's essentially a ghost story, but it's not scary. It's a little, again, odd in a surreal kind of off sense of like a dream. And then the reveal that she was talking in an empty house, talking to someone that wasn't there anymore. And the ending has a happy little bow on it of like, the town was considering tearing down this old house that abuts the park, and she convinces them to turn it into a museum.
It's a museum, yeah. It's a museum in the end.
I love the warm hug that this magazine that was a very weird roller coaster ride gave me at the end of like, just goodbye, see you next week on the Night Gallery.
It was. I love it. So yeah, just the last line I love. I had to read the last line. It says, sometimes I stand in the open fields, gazing up at the snow-peaked mountains. I am looking for an answer, waiting for an explanation that will solve the mystery of Miss Sarah and her wisdom. I'll never forget her or the house where the past, present, and even my future met on one sleepy summer day. I don't understand it, but I'll never forget it until the day I die.
It's sweet. I don't know.
It's very sweet. It's very sweet.
It made me really happy. Like
it was a good note to end on for sure.
Yes.
And then you get Dr. Stillman's Miracle Weight Loss, which I didn't hardly even read it.
I didn't either.
But then, because the next one is How to Command Sexual Ecstasy. So that was another one.
I forgot about this one.
I liked this, but the I don't know, the copy was so weird and stilted. It was like AI time traveled or something. To where it was like, you learn exactly how the sexual machinery of your body functions and how to sharpen its sensitivity day by day till you reach the point of automatic ecstasy.
We require more RAM.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the picture at the top of the woman in the leotard just laying on it, like, it looks like she fell. She can't get up.
Oh man. Yeah, it was good. Then we get a Holy Bible golden pendant as our next carry the good fortune, inspiration, and protection of the Word of God next to your heart. All 1,245 pages of the Old and New Testament.
How does that work?
I don't know.
Okay. So it's been optically reduced to an area just 1.5 inch square, the entire Bible.
Entire Bible, Matt. Didn't you know?
And you can verify this yourself with any student's 100 times microscope or library microfilm viewer, Jacob.
Maybe. Okay. Maybe.
So I find that when I've looked these things up, a lot of these things are on eBay. So your assignment, the show will pay for this, is to find one of these and buy one and take it into the microfilm viewer at the library and confirm.
I will do that.
Everything's in there, and I want you to blow up Revelations or Timothy.
First Timothy?
First
or
Timothy.
Timothy 1.
Timothy,
I think.
Timothy the 1.
Timothy the 1, as Trump says. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like this idea. I thought this was, oh, there it is. Okay. I thought I got screwed up. So then there's the rest of the Starscope. Another sex ad, the scene in sex, where you're at sexually. Your success depends on success. Depends on where, how, and how much with whom. You know, latest facts on sex and drugs, abortion, the pill, the loop, etc. Sex for the old. 729 ways of pleasure.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I guess people can do stuff they want to do in their bedroom, whatever.
They can.
I'm against it personally, but
I'm against it. I ain't for it.
I'm against it. So we've had weight loss. We've had a lot of sexual stuff, like all the things you would imagine that would be aimed at a female reader at any point in time. I mean, you can open up any woman's magazine now, and there's the modern version of this. It's all snake oil horse shit. Appear 10 to 15 years younger instantly. To any YouTube ad, or you know what I mean, any ad you see on TV is going to have some bullshit about making you look 10 years younger with this cream that's got diamonds and dinosaur cum in it. Like it's all
right.
It's just bullshit.
But Mark Trainer says, "I personally guarantee it." It's personal guarantee.
The Mark Trainer. Oh, Sir Mark.
The
Trainer.
Mark Trainer. Yeah. Yeah.
This next ad was when I was thinking that I had misremembered, but it's in this. Will this talisman bracelet bring you good luck? For ages past, the tribes of Kenya have thought so.
Oh, well. Yeah. As old as Africa, as new as today. That was the line that I really liked. You just have to send it into Talisman International. At least I like that company.
Yep. Can you solve the riddle of its ancient design?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Elephant hair styled bracelet. Okay, I literally was just reading a Hoke Mosley book today by Charles Wilford, where there were these thefts in this Miami high-rise condo apartment. And among the things stolen from some of the condos was an elephant hair bracelet. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Now I know. It's fine metal, like braided together.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I did not get that.
Wow, what are the odds of reading that book and reading this magazine like the same week? That's fucking weird.
Providence.
And then we have the back page, Jacob. You want to take us out with Incredible Wettables?
Incredible Wettables by Maybelline. Says, beautiful eyes, come rain or come shine. Here's everything you need. Incredible wettable eyes. Eye makeup that rains in the rain, won't run, smear, fade. Colors, mascara, 2 great shadow shades, and our pencil liner for a fine lid line. All together in the most complementary colors. All together waterproof. So 5 nice down-to-earth colors, green, brown, plum, blue, black. Get set to take a shine to all of them. This has to just be like horrific chemicals.
Oh, I'm sure.
That will just devastate your eyes and your skin. That's just what I'm assuming.
Yeah, and I'm sure they destroyed a whole like farms full of rabbits just getting it to be that not toxic, even though it is toxic.
Even though it is. Yeah, this is I love the packaging. If you look at the packaging, that's all like an umbrella. Like, okay, that's decent packaging.
It's pretty cool.
The woman looks terrified.
Yeah, I did not like that trend in the 70s of the eyeshadow like that, which was like just like, makeup gun set to whore. Not my favorite. That's Gothic Romance.
That is Gothic Romance. We did it.
It was a little long, but I thought it was worth it. And I figured, I don't know, I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than I expected to, even though I have a soft spot for this stuff and I like it as disposable entertainment. Particularly Black Unicorn, but all the short stories were interesting. Even the ones that like were kind of gross were still entertaining. So I don't know. We'll include a link to where this is on our Google Drive. So if you want to check it out, it's not a great scan, but if you can read on something where you can zoom in a little bit and read it, I'd recommend it. And I kind of want to check out Ruth McCloud or Ruby Jean Jensen, like something that's like one of their higher rated ones on Goodreads. That people
I'd like to check out one. If you said like Ruby Jean Jensen went into horror, I'd like to check out one of those for sure. Yeah.
So definitely looks like I saw one of hers. I'll show it in here now, but like there's like a 1988 book that's like one of those covers where it's like what's that called? Lenticular. Yeah. So it's like, it's got like a Gothic like house and it's got like little kids' faces in the windows. And like, if you turn it, like they're all,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I love that stupid shit. So, Gothic Romances, should have been more. There was another magazine they published that I cannot find. I've looked so hard, called My Confession, I think is what it's called, or My True Confession, something like that.
That Atlas Seaboard did.
Yeah. And it it had a woman wearing a Captain America tunic, like she looks like, Captain America's uniform, on the cover. And it's very much like women's magazine, like confessional, you know the genre. Like one of the things was like, something with a priest. And I was like, oh shit, like they're going there. Like they're just like, okay. But I cannot find it. No one seems to, no one scanned it. No one seems to have one. There's not for sale for love or money. I saw, I think Alan Kupperberg's copy of Gothic Romances was on sale on eBay for like $700.
His copy,
his personal copy. Yes.
That's awesome.
I don't know if it's sold or not, but if somebody wants to get us something to kick off the final season,
I want Alan Kupperberg's copy of Gothic Romance.
Yes. And I want to verify that is his.
Yep. I want a picture of him holding it up. Yeah.
Cool.
No, this is a good this is a good start to our shadow show for the final season.
Yeah. So we will resume movies when we do the rest of the season on the shadow show, the main shadow show. Our first movie, Jacob, is going to be El Latigo contra Satanas. So there was in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a Mexican Zorro type of hero called El Latigo, which is the whip. and this is the second film, I think, or third of his. I think there's like so there was one called like El Latigo Negro in like the 50s, but this is a separate character, probably a homage to him. But I think he fights some mummies, killer mummies at one point, and then he just says fuck it and just goes straight at Satan. So that's our next.
Awesome.
That's paired with Grim Ghost, because I didn't know what to watch with Grim Ghost, but Grim Ghost seems like it's a similar type of supernatural Western hero bandit vigilante kind of thing. All right, folks. Well, thanks for coming along and checking out a little bit of Gothic romance suspense with us. That was a great time. If it's not something that you think you would want to read in magazine format, if you just want to dip your toe in the Gothic romance pool, I recommend checking out the original series, first episode of Dark Shadows, the popular soap opera that ran for several years. The first episode of that show is on Tubi. You can watch it for free with ads. It's 22 minutes long, and it is a by the numbers, all the tropes thing where the main character gets a job offer mysteriously. She's an orphan. She's grown up. She's going to this mysterious coastal town. There's a castle full of rich assholes, and she has to navigate their whole world. And there's a sexy jerk that she meets, and all the things are there that you expect. And you might enjoy watching it. It's kind of a beloved series because it's kind of low budget, and it was a soap opera in 1966. So, there's, like Jacob was saying, there's visible booms and shots. People bump into things that are walls that are clearly not walls, and, stuff shot sometimes live, sometimes it's on video, and there's weird glares from metal objects. And, it's a very charming, creaky, weird show that gets weirder as it goes on, but it starts off as a Gothic romance.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched the opening episode, so maybe I'll do that tonight.
Yeah, very famous theme song. I thought that it's like slipping into a warm bath, hearing that theremin and the voiceover from the main character. It's like, oh man, I kind of missed this show. I haven't seen this in like 12 years. So check it out on Tubi.
And Dan Curtis, right?
Dan Curtis, goddamn right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So Matt and I have a pretty decent schedule for our bonus shows. We're going to be doing one, on the every other week for our patrons. And so the first one that we're going to do, paired with Grim Ghost #1, is we're going to talk about House of Mystery 311 from 1982. That is an iVampire story, and it's iVampire at Woodstock.
Yeah.
So how awesome is that?
I think we talked about this in a previous Shadow Show episode when we were talking about what the Shadow Show should be season 7. So I sold Jacob on the idea. So we thought that'd be a good way to start the season 7 Shadow Show.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. I'm very excited about that. So, yeah, well, Matt, this is the official beginning to season 7. We did it.
We did it.
We did it.
Slam dunk.
Yeah, slam dunk indeed. All right, so yes, I guess next time you'll see us will be for Grim Ghost #1 and House of Mystery 311 iVampire. So till then, hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
That's a Shadow Show.
That's a Shadow Show. Damn it.